I first stumbled upon Karin's story at a site called Ghost Theory. After reading up on Elisa Lam's disappearance, another intriguing article caught my eye, titled, "The Strange Case of Karin Catherine Waldegrave." I was immediately drawn into this woman's story, which goes a little something like this. Karin Catherine Waldegrave joined Facebook in 2011. After filling out her profile and uploading photos, she began posting several mysterious and conspiracy-ridden stream-of-consciousness rants. Karin wasn't just your average scatterbrained woman venting her problems to Facebook. After posting a status, she would remain active for several hours, replying over and over to her own posts up to 100 times or more on a single status update. Karin would compose these walls of text within seconds of each other, seemingly impossible to have been typed by hand, especially within such a short time frame. The sheer volume of text she'd consistently generate was truly baffling. To give you a sense of how she'd write and what she'd write about, here's a sample of her first strange Facebook entry. "Somebody please tell her to stop embarrassing herself and get some serious hobbies which allow her to contribute to society in a more meaningful and sensible way. I mean, there's always aviation, industrial automation, the consultancy of chemical explosives engineering, and the promotion of nudism in lieu of national culture to Valérie Fabricant at the École Polytechnique here in Canada. Also designing national flags with banana leaf weed on it." Was she simply copying and pasting rants that she had already typed up? How was she sustaining such a volume of new replies to herself, especially during her 12-hour-long Facebook sessions? Why was she replying to herself over and over again? Just who was any of this text intended for, anyway? Perhaps most importantly, was this even a real person? Just who was Karin Catherine Waldegrave? Well, according to her mysterious Facebook profile, she was a rather impressive and well-educated Canadian woman, having attended the University of Western Ontario as well as the University of Toronto. She had worked at Ontario Hydro International as Senior Vice President. She was fluent in several languages: Estonian, Latvian, French, Finnish, German, Swedish, even Latin. She would even use several of these languages in her many replies to herself. Karin only shared a few hobbies, such as sailing on the Great Lakes, and mentioned having a cat named Hector and a pit bull named Dodger. She had only a few personal photos uploaded, and to make things eerier, several of them showed clear and unexplained film damage. Though some have surmised that the damage was photoshopped, however, several of the damaged photos are scanned in as full pages from old-school sticky-page photo albums. Many who had the chance to view Karin's profile came to the conclusion that she's either schizophrenic, has multiple personality disorder, or suffers some sort of paranoia-inducing mental degradation, resulting in symptoms such as word salad, which is a confused or unintelligible mixture of seemingly random words and phrases. Ghost theory suggests that, perhaps, Karin's profile is the result of cleverly programmed automated posts, but even they quickly dismissed this idea. Even though her ramblings can appear like computer-generated text, too much of it seems to reiterate the same message, or at least the same theme, perhaps even a hidden message. Several websites go so far as to compare it to a numbers station, theorizing that a, quote, incomprehensible coded message lies somewhere within her barrage of text. Though I can't quite recall where, I read that someone concluded that Karin's profile was fake, as they tested samples of her writing on Hacker Factor, a tool that estimates the gender of the writer in question. Karin's writing style was determined to be that of a male. Well, for argument's sake, I tested several of my own writing samples, and it turns out that I also write like a man. So I took it upon myself to dismiss the theory that a man was behind the Karin phenomenon. I just wasn't satisfied with the conclusion that she was either computer-generated or just a fake profile. Karin's Facebook profile was short-lived, lasting a little over a year, from April 2010 until May 2011. One of her very last posts, on May 26th, goes so far as to accuse someone of murder. Why is pervert Tyler Burleigh wearing my great-grandfather's mock hairdo and red lines around his jacket threatening cuttings to pieces and beheadings? Wallpaper? Is he a normal person? No, he is not. Donald MacLeod is not either. Kevin Zilka. They are murderers. While I couldn't figure out who Kevin Zilka is, Donald MacLeod has a Wikipedia page, and next to his name in parentheses is the word spy. Karin has several incoherent rants, such as these, that are quite hard to decipher or make sense of. While many seem just plain nonsensical, there are a few others that are a bit more shady. She references herself as part of the infamous Bilderberg Group, mentions harboring knowledge of conspiracies and crimes involving the elite, and that she's even being monitored by the FBI, CIA, and the KGB. So, did Karin delete her Facebook account? Maybe she had gone too far this time and caught heat after accusing people of things like murder, publicly, on the internet. Maybe she had divulged too much, and someone else disposed of her account. Though it's rumored that about the time she disappeared from Facebook was when her profile had started gaining traction. Maybe she opted for deactivation in lieu of unwanted attention. There is also a theory that the incredible extent of her written content was simply a memoir that was too controversial to ever publish, what with all the character defamation, and that she just wanted an account of her life documented somewhere, even if it was unfit for publishing. She even alludes amongst her Facebook comments that she's been busy writing her family memoirs. Despite popular belief, Karin did not, in fact, go quiet after her Facebook was deleted, but nothing as blatant or publicly revealing as her Facebook account has ever surfaced. But we'll get to that a bit later. First, here's everything else I was able to uncover about the enigmatic Karin Catherine Waldegrave. Karin was born November 13, 1969, in Estonia. She later immigrated to Canada, though her Facebook profile curiously claims her hometown is actually London, United Kingdom. According to her marriage certificate, her birth name is Karin Steinberg. She labels herself as Lutheran Catholic, and she is a woman of many, many, many aliases. Most notably, Karen Britt Keithley, which was the name her Facebook page was originally created under, and there are conversations with friends where she signs her name as KBK. Much of the information I'm about to spew can be credited to the criminologist, though unfortunately I cannot find his original research, link, or information, but its remnants are still strewn across the many forums online dedicated to Karin. She married a man named Peter Lepik in 1992. They had no children and divorced about a decade later. He is the man featured in most of her old, damaged photos. Peter has several public social media accounts today, but please let's not bother him about his ex-wife. Karin remarried in 2003 to Gordon Finlay, who was born in 1923 or 24, making him between 87 to 88 years old in 2011. Though Karin posted a photo of them together, there has been speculation that Gordon was simply a neighbor of hers who lived in the same condominiums as she, and that the following post of Karin's indicates that she has been visited by police and/or social workers, and that ultimately her Facebook profile was shut down because she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital afterward. The post is as follows: "Police infantry does not belong in my life. Even if they put a social worker's socialite outfit on, you are less than intelligent child's IQ and mentality. Uninnocent, disgusting bastards." And also, "I have never been exposed to police ever in my life, and this is totally confusing for me. You are to cease and desist and stop attacking my life. You should never have grabbed onto me at all. You are illegal, immoral, stupid and perverse, and lowbrow, narcissistic sadists and theatricals, swindle set of threateners and life waste awayers." The criminologist also suggests an interesting explanation as to the style of Karin's writing, which is often misconstrued as pure gibberish. they say, she bases many of her conspiratorial linkages on puns and word association. For example, she develops a hatred toward Anneli Pibu, a popular mezzo-soprano from Estonia. Pibu is married to Raul Nadits, a deathcore singer from Estonia. Karin seems to conflate him with Raul Nadits, an Estonian jurist and professor of law at University of Tartu. In addition, Karin appears to have no idea what deathcore is. She admits she doesn't know much about pop culture, punning it with deathcore, translates that to Team Tot, and then puns that with Team Tot, which she associates with her nemesis Francine Mackenzie's role in the history department as Team Teacher, probably at University of Toronto. If anyone has created a semantic and ontological network that can construct that chain, then they have made a breakthrough that surpasses all the AI research for the last 50 years. On the other hand, these are lexical anomalies that are characteristic of patients with schizophrenia. One thing about Karin's apparent condition that is inconsistent, or at least very unusual, is the combination of hypergraphia with paranoid schizophrenia. Hypergraphia is most commonly seen in patients with either epilepsy or bipolar disorder. It is not typical of schizophrenia. Many people look at Karin's profile and see a brilliant, educated, intelligent woman who may be a bit peculiar, but who has a lot of knowledge, particularly about things she possibly shouldn't. And perhaps, rather than mental illness, some believe she's the victim of some kind of government conspiracy, such as Project MKUltra, a mind control program by the CIA. It seems that Karin is, indeed, compiling some sort of family history memoir. It is also apparent that, when Karin does pop up, she tends to do so in a way that is staking claim at some kind of inheritance or reparations that she and her relatives have been denied of. Or at the very least, she's out to prove her ties to European aristocracy in her royal bloodline. The criminologist speculates that Karin's content on Facebook was, quote, actually memoirs heavily edited and placed in an objective context. She lists many more supposed relatives and ancestors that have been described as unverifiable and incredible claims. However, some of this could possibly be explained through another mysterious profile on Jenny.com, a family tree building site, under alias Karin Sophie Kell Waldegrave von Canso. You can't see much unless you're a member, but there's an image gallery of screenshots of various family links to Karin. Curiously, she lists having 4 sons and 1 daughter, and an ex-husband named G. Robertson Canaris, though I was unable to find anything about him. Most interesting to note is a comment she posted where she explains that the name Steinberg is just an alias, and she says, quote, Karin Catherine von Habsburg Lothringen Waldegrave Kell, my real name as of the 60-year Official Secrets Act deadline, on disclosure. Perhaps all of this could explain her incredible and unverifiable claims of her royal ties. To make matters even more interesting, perhaps the most eerie and intriguing part of Karin's story is more of a mystery within a mystery. That being the disappearance of her father, who has allegedly been missing since 2008 somewhere in Estonia. Karin explains that his full, real name is Sir James Roland Edward Waldegrave Kell, aka Jack Steinberg. She references her father several times alongside MI5, which is Military Intelligence, Section 5, alluding that her father was somehow involved with the Secret Service Bureau and had to use an alias as a result. Karin goes on to accuse a woman whose photo she posted to her Facebook, possibly named Tina Kerst Mayfield, along with someone named Peter Walter, demanding, "Where is my father, Jack Waldegrave Kell, and what have you and Peter Walter done to him?" Karin claims her grandfather is Sir James Vernon George Waldegrave Kell, better known as Vernon Kell, whose Wikipedia page can be found here, where he is in fact listed as a Director General of MI5. Another interesting accusation amongst Karin's posts goes as follows. Kate Middleton's entourage murdered him and my grandfather in 2008, battered my mother in her career since 1980, and have threatened to kill me as of January 2010, torturing me to death. Pervert. Earlier, I mentioned that Karen's Facebook was not the last we had heard from her. First, she has an unofficial fan page on Facebook. It seems the owner of this fan page has hit a brick wall where new information on Karen is concerned. Though, interestingly, she speculates that a woman tagged as Anu Elmer bears a striking resemblance to Karin. Though the nose is quite similar and the smiles are comparable, the eyes, and most notably the eyebrows, are quite dissimilar. I do not personally believe this to be Karin. I'll explain why momentarily, but first, Karin has a seemingly stable LinkedIn profile where it lists a dense and detailed work history. In terms of social media, Karin seems to surface on LinkedIn most often, with either mostly blank pages or pages with regurgitated information under her various aliases. Though I was able to access several of these links months ago, it appears they are now broken or deleted. Luckily, I did save the thumbnail versions of the photos in question, though they're still poor quality. One photo appears to be a family collage of sorts, with many vintage photos. The top right photo is of her mother and father on their wedding day, which can also be found on this Google Plus profile, as well as one of her old Facebook posts. On the bottom left, however, you'll notice a woman wearing a jacket with long, straight dark hair, and a similar photo in the bottom center. Here is another collage from a different LinkedIn profile with yet another one of her aliases. This time, the dark-haired woman is wearing braids, glasses, and seems to be smiling and happy. If you do a Google image search for Karin Catherine Waldegrave, you'll find many interesting things in 4plebs, which is a 4chan forum archive. One of which she introduces herself alongside these mysterious selfies, saying, "Hello, I am Karin," and "me at Starbucks." So perhaps that really was Karin posting selfies to 4chan. Perhaps she wanted to check in and show people her happy smiling face and that she's in various public places enjoying herself, and not in, say, some institution, jail, or inexplicably kidnapped by some secretive organization. Either way, this dark-haired woman really bears a striking resemblance to Karin. A trace of Karin can also be found at Findario. The most curious part of this account is under the Employment tab, which reads, "Sensible and manageable by me, also well planned and will be organized also, and pleasant also for any normal person, legal sanity." But the icing on the cake has to be the following website. It features a very clear photo of Karin, sporting the familiar glasses and long dark braids as was seen in her collages, as well as the same smile as her infamous Facebook profile photo. Keep in mind, the photo Karin posted as her profile photo was of herself when she was 35 years old, which was already 7 years old in 2011. This website is where her claim to aristocracy is at its peak. She refers to herself as Archduchess, Viscountess, Baroness, and even Her Royal Highness Queen of Austria. She says, quote, "The king and I will follow up. There is no king for now." And further down in her profile, she says she's widowed, which means Gordon Finlay must have passed away. I can't help but wonder when it was she published this mysterious website, whether or not she found a new king by now, if she ever discovered her father's whereabouts, and if we'll ever hear from her again. If you're interested in reading or possibly decrypting Karin's actual writings, her entire Facebook profile has been archived and collected at the following links. I can't quite explain what it is about Karin Catherine Waldegrave that has me so intrigued. I know plenty of people can just brush her off as a crazy woman, or maybe they think I'm crazy for looking so hard into this when, she's just a random Canadian woman, but I don't know. There's something about her story with all of the conspiracies and her missing father. I don't know, it's interesting. I'm not gonna say I believe it all, but I think there's a little something more there than just a woman pulling names off of Wikipedia and claiming she's related to them. What do you guys think? Do you think she's crazy, or do you think there's something more to her story? Have you discovered anything that I haven't mentioned here? I'd love to know. And I look forward to your thoughts and conclusions below. And of course, thanks for watching.